having a baby, right, I had things in my head. And so part of the things is, I know she's going to grow my first time. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? Is there anything I can do? I know she's going to sit, she's going to walk and all of those things. I expect her to do those things, right, when it's time. But I had always had this thing in my head that, is there something I need to do to facilitate the growth process? It led me to the very first lesson that I learned about growth from observing a baby. In doing life, we actually have a lot of clues around us. The question is, are you paying attention? When it comes to growth in real life for adults, when it comes to trying to see results, I realized that these are not things you actually learn or you need to learn in the context of trying to make something happen. Rather, it is actually programmed. That is, at a certain time, certain things will happen. It's not something you have to be anxious about. It is going to happen. It has been programmed. You get? Because the way we approach life, it like, oh, it's like this thing may not happen, so you are doing something out of anxiety and fear. Hello there, welcome to another episode of Jamie Baby Care. Now in this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you some big life lessons I learned from observing my baby grow. There were some things that really instructed me, right? And it made me realize that, in doing life, we actually have a lot of clues around us. The question is, are you paying attention? And so I'll be sharing with you some I learned by just paying attention to my baby, who is less than a year as of now, the creation of this video, but they have been big for me, right? And I'd love to give a reference to some of the things I'll be sharing today, just to put it out there so that when I'm making reference to it, you understand what I'm saying. And so I'm taking my reference from a chapter of the Bible. That's from the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3. From verse 1, it says, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time to war and a time of peace. What profit had he that worketh in that wherein he laboureth?" That's verse 9. Verse 10 says, "I have seen the travail which God had given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He had made everything beautiful in his time. Also he had set the word in their hearts, so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from beginning to the end. I know that there is no good in them, but for a man to rejoice and do good in his life, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God." So I'll stop there. That's verse 13. Now, going back to my introduction, right? I began to observe my baby. And I will tell you at the end of this video why this is a big lesson for me and might also be a useful lesson for you. I'm going to contrast a baby's experience with a real life experience of how growth works. That's for an adult now. And so, having a baby, right, I had things in my head. And so part of the things is, I know she's going to grow my first time. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? Is there anything I can do? I know she's going to sit, she's going to walk and all of those things. I expect her to do those things, right, when it's time. But I had always had this thing in my head that, is there something I need to do to facilitate the growth process and all of that? And so it led me to the very first lesson that I learned about growth from observing a baby. Now, something I got in the whole of this experience was that growth is actually not learned, it is programmed. Follow me, I would explain what that means. And so, like I said, I had so many things in my head, right? I wanted to know, what should I do, what should I not do, how can I help her to grow, blah, 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 blah. But eventually I realized that I didn't have to do anything more than the daily experience of taking care of her, feeding her, playing with her, reading to her, and just the very basic things. I didn't really need to do more than that. But she was literally growing and experiencing changes on different levels, right? At a particular time, we were carrying her flat on the hand. After a while, she started raising her neck, trying to hold her head up, and she would do all of that, and the head would still be falling to the side, but she was trying. And after a while, she started trying to sit up straight, and then after a while, she started crawling, trying, and then she perfected it, and she was standing and then walking, right? And so it's something I learned that really, when it comes to growth, and I'm speaking with regards to wanting to see results, right? Because the result for the baby was, oh, she should grow, she should develop, she should be able to walk after a certain period of time, you understand? So when it comes to growth in real life for adults, when it comes to trying to see results, I realized that these are not things you actually learn or you need to learn in the context of trying to make something happen. Rather, it is actually programmed. That is, at a certain time, certain things will happen. Now, remember the verse we read at the beginning, right? It said, to everything there is a season. That scripture, when I read it again, it shocked me because I supposedly have read this verse several times. To everything, not some things. You understand? To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the earth. Now, the beautiful thing about that is the fact that if you understand what season means, right? It means at a particular time there will be certain results or certain fruits that will be available. If you look at the thing of if you look at it in terms of food now, you know, there are certain seasons where some things are available and it's just there in abundance. There are certain seasons where at other times you will not have that particular food available. So there are things I'm learning now. It's a learning experience I'm just sharing, right? So there are things that will actually happen when you get to a certain level. It is programmed. I will still explain more on that, right? It's programmed, but you have to, for me, what this information does is that it helps me relax, because I'm the kind of person that, when I know that something needs to be done or something needs to happen and I need to have a certain result, I tend to want to make it happen by my efforts. Now, if you listen to that verse we read, just taking it down a bit, he said something. He said, after he had said all the things about time and season, right? He now said, what profit hath a man in the work that he worketh, wherein he labored? He now went further and said, I have seen the travel which God had given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He said, he had made everything beautiful in his time, but he has set the word in their hearts, so that no man can find the work that God maketh from beginning to the end. That means things are programmed to happen in season, right? You want a certain result, you want to get married, you want to have a certain level of income, you want to have this, you want to have that. All of these things are going to happen. I think that's the baseline foundation I want to establish. It's not something you have to be anxious about. It is going to happen. It has been programmed, you get? Because the way we approach it like, oh, it's like this thing may not happen, so you are doing something out of anxiety and fear. But if you have this information, he said he made everything beautiful in his time. It has been programmed to happen. You have been programmed to get married, to get to a point where you attain a certain result, let's say financially or in your career. And I will show you how this programming works as we continue. But that's the very first lesson I learned, right? Certain things are programmed. I'm saying certain things, but the Bible literally said, to everything there is a season. So it means there is a time when some things will happen. Now, you will know what you should do as we go further.